Hi everyone, it's Lena and welcome back to my channel. So in my last video, my resources video, I have already teased it that I would make a more detailed video about Tandem and the concept of language exchange. Since I often mention Tandem on my Instagram story and I almost every time get some sort of reply saying, "What is Tandem? Can you explain that?" and blah blah. I thought that would be common knowledge among language learners, but apparently that isn't the case. So today I will be sharing my expertise of a whopping half a year of being on Tandem. I mean, expertise is relative, but I'll just share what I have experienced. So I've already shown you Tandem in my resources video, but real brief about how it works. So maybe I should explain what language exchange actually means first. Basically, you find yourself a person who speaks your target language and wants to learn your native language or just any language that you can speak. So you can kind of learn from each other. And to find a language exchange partner, there are a few apps and sites that you can use if you don't know anyone in person. For example, I learned Ukrainian. That's a rather unpopular language to learn, and when I started I did not know anyone in person who speaks Ukrainian. Now I do, but only recently. If you don't have some sort of acquaintance who speaks your target language, you will have to go onto those sites inevitably. I think the main one is Tandem, at least that's what I have been using, so I will be referring to Tandem in this video, but there are a few others as well, such as I think My Language Exchange, that works quite similar to Tandem, I think, but the website still looks like it's from the 90s. Then Hello Talk is also quite popular, I think, but really I've only used Tandem, so I cannot really say anything about that. Or italki, but I think italki is only very limited with the free version. So I'll be talking about Tandem. So I have been on Tandem since late July or early August. I don't really remember the exact date I set up my account, but that derives back to my recent trip to Kiev, where I realized as soon as I stepped out of the terminal building at the airport, I realized I should have practiced my speaking skills earlier. Why didn't I do that, you may ask? Well, I have been hesitant to sign up to any of those platforms because, well, first of all, it has some sort of reputation that people on there only look out to date and not actually want to learn languages, but I will talk about that later. And also because I'm a beginner and I cannot really have conversations. I'm not fully conversational still. So I was hesitant about that. So that leads me to the first point in the question, what should you pay attention to when you're looking for a language exchange partner? And ideally, I would say a language exchange partner should have a similar level in their target language as you have in yours, because there are a lot of people on Tandem who already have a decent level in their target language, just because a lot of people learned it at school already or take courses, have tutoring, or just simply live in the country where their target language is spoken and they are like close to fluency, but still they are on Tandem to look for native speakers to talk to. But ever since I set up my account on Tandem, I believe in speaking practice early onwards, even if you're a beginner. But yeah, as I mentioned, there are not that many beginners on Tandem, so you're lucky if you find someone. Reason being, you're less likely to leave each other. Can you put it like that? Because people who have a much higher level than you do not rely that much on you as you do on them. Overall, I have experienced a lot of coming and going on Tandem. In my last video, I also mentioned that I was quite a desired Tandem partner. If I was ever popular, then it was on Tandem for some reason. I just blame it on the fact that a lot of Ukrainians want to learn English and or German, and not a lot of native speakers of those languages want to learn Ukrainian, since it unfortunately is quite an unusual language to learn. On some days I would come home from uni and would literally spend the rest of my day replying to messages from Tandem, because when I was setting up my account, I said, of course I'm going to reply to every single person. I'm not that rude. I don't want to be that kind of person, because whenever I reach out to a person, I obviously want a response, and yeah, I don't want to do that to people. But inevitably I had to close my Tandem to new people in late September when I got kind of busy with uni. Being busy for me always comes in phases, and that is mostly either before or shortly after vacation, or both. So I just had no time whatsoever to devote to Tandem. But then when I had my autumn break in October and had more time, I opened it up again and immediately had like 5 new messages within an hour. So I had to close it down again because it got too much, and I have not opened it since. I mean, I still can reach out to people whom I find interesting, but I do not show up in the community tab for new people. I just went through my chats again before filming this video, and I have been in contact with like 100 different people. That's mind-blowing, but okay. But obviously I cannot keep all those people, so as rude as it sounds, I had to make some cuts. I would strongly advise you to not rely on one person, because if they are unavailable, I mean, I'm not the most available person. I get busy phases, as I said. This also goes out to my fellow university students. They will know that. But too many is also not good. I would say do not have like more than 5 Tandem partners who you're in contact with. Right now I have like 4 whom I'm more or less regularly in contact with. But I just said that I went through my chats, but 90% of my conversations are just like, hi, and they would never respond again. Or at most, hi, how are you? Good, what are you doing? Not much, you. Yeah, that kind of frustrated me as well. Yeah, at first I stopped replying to those people before I closed my Tandem. That sounds extremely rude, but yeah, I just want to have intellectual conversations. But ideally, that's why also I like people who's obviously Ukrainian native, since I learned Ukrainian, learns German, is a beginner in German, but at the same time speaks decent English, so that we can have conversations that go beyond how are you, what are you doing, and stuff. But that also has a bit of a twist, because that begs the danger of you two only speaking English instead of your target languages. And that won't be good either. Another thing that is very important is that patience is absolute key, especially when you're a beginner. I personally hate it if people lose patience with me while I'm there struggling to find the right words to say. And especially because I have stated in my profile that I'm not fully conversational. But my absolute worst memory from Tandem, I'll share it with you. I was in a call with someone who really pressured me into speaking, and then even said I should totally reconsider my decision of learning Ukrainian, and he totally discouraged me from learning it. But at the same time, he did not want to end the call when I wanted to. Like, I was visibly uncomfortable and I made up some excuse that I wanted to leave, but it was like 10 more minutes, blah, blah. And then I just, no, I'm hanging up now, and I never called him again. So overall, that was my worst experience from Tandem. Just don't do anything that makes you uncomfortable in any way. For instance, if you prefer to have calls off camera, regular audio calls do just as well. Do not let anyone pressure you into being on camera. I can totally understand it. I mean, for me, I have social anxiety. For me, calls are scary enough, but I set up my Tandem to have calls to practice my speaking, so I have to get over that. But like having my camera turned on during one-on-one meetings to me is fine, but like when I'm in my online classes with like 20 other people, I always keep my camera off as well, so that's understandable. But at the same time, I also have encountered people who are even more shy than me and don't even want to have calls and want to stick to texting or do voice messages at most. At first, I even struggle to find people who are willing to call me, but you have to respect that. As I said, I don't get in contact with strangers that easily, and it's especially scary if you have to talk in a foreign language. So whenever I'm calling somebody for the first time, I will be really shy and awkward at first, and I have to get used to that person. But what is really important is find someone that you like, not what you're thinking, but I'll get to that in a minute. Just find someone whom you get along with and whom you look forward to talking to, because language learning is not supposed to feel like a chore, especially if it's your hobby. I mean, hobbies are there to be pleasurable, and do not let that be ruined by having the wrong language partner. You know, with some people, you can talk for hours and you will not even notice the time passing by, whereas others make you so uncomfortable that it will just feel very lengthy. Now, you may ask me, what is the ideal length of a Tandem meeting? Bear with me, my Tandem meetings are never under 2 hours. They are always around 2 hours, sometimes 3 if it's with the right person. But I think 2 hours is actually a good length, although that might seem time consuming. Yes, it is, you'll have to make time for that. But I think 2 hours is a perfect length, because you can do 1 hour for one language and switch to the other one for another hour. But what I feel obliged to address in this video is, I think I mentioned it at the beginning, this reputation that Tandem and overall language exchange apps have. And that is that most people who are there don't look actually for a language exchange partner, but for someone to date. I think it's even more common on Hello Talk rather than on Tandem, because someone at uni came to me recently. I mean, I'm known at uni for being a notorious language learner. So she approached me and she asked me, hey, Lena, can you recommend me a language exchange app without the creepy factor, please? I'm on Hello Talk and I only attract creeps. And frankly, I had to pass because creeps can be anywhere. I mean, if you're a girl on social media, you'll relate, and you probably will have dealt with creeps at some point in your lifetime. I mean, so have I. I mean, I have been on social media for almost 9 years. That's impressive, but okay. And that's why I was hesitant to even set up my Tandem account, because a friend of mine warned me, like, oh, the people just want to date, blah, blah, they are not serious. But still, inevitably, I did it because I really needed someone to talk to. But at the same time, I really feared that I would only attract creeps, and I had enough of that. But weirdly, I cannot really confirm that stereotype. Of course, there are some exceptions, but they will be very easy to spot. Let me just say this. If you ever encounter some guy who only has shirtless pics of himself combined with something like, I'm looking for a girl between 20 and 25 who is beautiful and intelligent and kind, run. Just run. That's like the reddest red flag. But as I said, that's only a very small minority of people who are actually like that, and I don't contact them. Mainly it's because Ukrainians are very kind people, mostly. But Ukrainians can be very direct, and that took me some time to get used to, especially because I'm a more reserved person. To sum it up, don't be someone who openly seeks relationships on Tandem. You will just exploit people who are there to learn a language. You just kill their pleasure of learning languages. And since you can only filter the community by place, in the paid version, it will mostly be a long distance relationship as well, and I would not openly seek a long distance relationship. But even if you're a person who is serious about language learning and so is your partner, there is still the possibility of catching feelings for your language exchange partner, even if you did not intend to. Have I addressed everything that I wanted to address? Oh, maybe I could address Tandem versus tutoring. Personally, although I do not stick to my own advice in this case, advise against solely relying on language exchange because it's not consistent enough, and consistency is key when you are learning a language. I know this, I just have to stick to it. So people need to make free space in their schedule in order for you to practice together, and it's just not always possible. Whereas tutors have a designated time slot every week that is devoted to you and just you, so it will be more consistent. So I would say have a tutor if you can, and do language exchange on the side where you apply the knowledge you acquire in your lesson while talking to a native speaker. So with that being said, I think I have talked about all that I know about Tandem and language exchange. I hope it was somehow useful, and I'll see you in another video, and bye.